Have you ever wondered where the societal facts we hear about on the news every single day actually come from? Like, did 80% of people really change their morning routine this year? Has the unemployment rate actually shifted that dramatically? Well, these numbers and trends, they aren't just random guesses pulled out of thin air. They are carefully, methodically, and scientifically engineered through a rigorous process known as social research. So today in this explainer, we're going to unpack that very blueprint of inquiry. We'll discover exactly how researchers collect, analyze, and interpret data to truly understand human behavior and try to solve some pretty complex social problems.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda for today. 1. Foundations of social inquiry. 2. Designing the research blueprint. 3. The science of sampling. 4. Data collection tools. 5. Ethics in social research. And finally, 6. Reporting the final discoveries.
Section 1. Foundations of social inquiry. The philosophies driving the facts. Now, every great piece of research starts with a fundamental philosophical lens. Before a researcher even picks up a clipboard, they have to decide how they actually view social reality itself. And what distinguishes the two main approaches here is pretty fascinating. On one side, we have positivism, which was founded by Auguste Comte. This approach treats society just like the natural world. It operates on the strict belief that there are objective laws governing how we behave, and we can find them using measurable facts, numerical data, and cold, hard scientific observation. But on the exact opposite side is interpretivism. Interpretivism argues that social reality is totally socially constructed. You can't just measure humans the way you measure gravity because humans have subjective meanings, beliefs, and incredibly complex emotions. So, in short, positivism wants to measure society mathematically, while interpretivism wants to deeply understand the human meaning behind those numbers.
Section 2. Designing the research blueprint, from steps to systematic approaches.
Once a researcher knows their philosophical stance, they have to translate that into an actual rigorous action plan. For absolute concept clarity, think of building a research project as a step-by-step chronological journey. It always starts with a spark, which is identifying a clear problem you want to solve. From there, you dig into the existing literature, so you aren't reinventing the wheel, and that helps you form a solid hypothesis. With that hypothesis in hand, you design your blueprint, pick your specific sample of people, and hit the field to actually collect the data. Once the hard field work is totally done, you retreat to process all those numbers or stories, interpret what they actually mean in the real world, and finally write your report to share your findings. Every single phase builds directly on the one right before it. Now, to really understand what distinguishes qualitative from quantitative research, let's think about it like this. Quantitative research wants to measure variables to test a hypothesis. So if you're studying unemployed youth, a quantitative approach would survey 1,000 of them to calculate an exact, precise jobless rate. Qualitative research, however, wants to understand the depth of that experience. It takes a much smaller, non-numerical approach. A researcher might sit down with just 5 of those youths for hours to hear their rich, personal stories. It's really the difference between capturing a sweeping numerical trend and capturing the deep, lived human experience. Section 3. The science of sampling. Who represents us? This brings us to a major logistical challenge in social research. We want to understand society, but obviously we can't survey every single person in it. So how do we choose who to study? The answer is sampling. Simply put, this is the process of selecting a representative portion of a population. Because researchers face severe, very real limitations in time, cost, and resources, it's just physically impossible to talk to everyone. Instead, we carefully select a smaller group that is meant to accurately represent the whole. But here's the catch. How you pick that smaller group completely dictates the validity of your entire study.
There are 2 main approaches to getting this right. Probability sampling is basically a scientific random lottery where every single member of a population has a known and equal chance of being selected. It vastly reduces bias and is highly reliable. But then there's non-probability sampling, which relies entirely on convenience and human judgment. Now, you might be wondering why use it? Well, imagine you're studying a highly secretive or hidden group. Let's say underground street racers. You can't exactly pick them randomly out of a phone book. You'd use something called snowball sampling, finding just one racer who vouches for you and then introduces you to the next. It's practical, fast, and totally necessary when random selection is basically impossible.
Section 4. Data collection tools. On-the-ground instruments. Okay, so we have our philosophy, our blueprint, and our sample. Let's look at the actual instruments researchers take into the field. Our first tool is observation. And this isn't just casually people watching at a coffee shop, it's the systematic, careful tracking of behaviors in their natural setting. Imagine you're a researcher trying to understand the intense subculture of extreme sports athletes or a hyper-niche online gaming community. Through participant observation, you wouldn't just send them a multiple-choice survey, you would actually immerse yourself in their world. You participate. This allows you to experience their unspoken rules directly and gather incredibly rich, first-hand data.
On the complete opposite end of the spectrum is the questionnaire method. The absolute importance of questionnaires lies in their incredible economic scale. I mean, have you ever bought something at a pharmacy and been handed a receipt that's literally 3 feet long with a survey at the bottom? That is the power of this method. You can reach thousands of people cheaply and efficiently because respondents fill them out completely independently. There's no interviewer present to accidentally bias the answers, making it perfect for gathering standardized data at lightning speed. Interviews, however, completely change the dynamic. What really distinguishes an interview from an independent survey is the direct verbal interaction. The immense value here is that an interviewer can read a microexpression, notice a slight hesitation, and immediately pivot to probe deeper on the fly. Whether it's a strictly structured Q&A, a loose, free-flowing conversation, or a focus group, interviews are definitely time-consuming, but the depth of insight you get into a person's true feelings, it's absolutely unparalleled.
Section 5. Ethics in Social Research, the Moral Compass of Inquiry. Armed with these powerful data collection tools, researchers essentially hold a massive responsibility over their human subjects. And that brings us to the strict rules of engagement. There are 2 totally non-negotiable pillars here: protection from harm and informed consent. The importance of these cannot be overstated. Researchers must guarantee that human participants never suffer physical, emotional, or social harm due to a study. And to ensure that, participants must know exactly what the study is, understand any potential risks, and they must participate entirely voluntarily with the complete freedom to walk away at any given moment without a single penalty. Beyond those pillars, researchers essentially have to act like a bank vault, ensuring absolute privacy and confidentiality for everyone involved. They have to operate with uncompromising integrity, meaning absolutely no faking data, no deception unless it's scientifically vital and followed by an immediate debrief, and complete fairness in how people are selected. These principles, they aren't just bureaucratic red tape. They are the bedrock that gives social research its public trust and its true societal value.
Section 6. Reporting the final discoveries, the written record of truth.
We have finally arrived at the last stage. After all the careful sampling, the hard fieldwork, and the strict ethical oversight, how is all this data actually shared? Well, it all culminates in the final report. This process perfectly mirrors our initial research blueprint. You map out your methodology so others can retrace your steps and verify your work. You visualize your data so it makes sense to the reader, and you objectively interpret what it all means to form your final recommendations. This highly systematic document is the ultimate payoff. It's the exact tool that policymakers, academics, and leaders actually use to enact real change in the real world based on hard evidence. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today, so the next time you're scrolling through the news and you read a bold headline declaring a brand new social fact, don't just accept it blindly. Pause for a second and ask yourself, what was the philosophical lens of that researcher? Did they use probability sampling or just convenience? And what tools did they use to uncover that information? Because the facts that shape our world don't just exist naturally. They are methodically, deliberately, and scientifically built. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the blueprint behind the headlines.